Hi guys. Um, in chapter 16, we are going to discuss air quality issues. Water and air are very challenging chapters in the second half of the semester. That's why it needs a lot of work. But I believe if you focus on tackling the concepts little by little, you will gain a lot by your hard learning. So in this chapter, we are going to discuss the following topic on the slides. And my emphasis will be the layers of the atmosphere. I want you to understand the pollutions of the air very well. And I definitely want you to know what is primary pollutants and what is the secondary pollutants. And unfortunately, you have to remember the 6 criteria air pollutants defined by EPA. I want you to know what is in the photochemical smog and how the smog was formed. What is characteristics of the smog? I want you to know what is acid deposition, what is acid rain, and care about the ozone depletion. The ozone depletion is getting much worse before 2000, but after we took actions, it gradually repaired itself, and so soon we'll have a very healthy ozone. I want you to understand why it's depleted and what did to let it repair itself. And the last important thing, it's not the least, is control of air pollution. And thanks to this fabulous law, Clear Air Act, I want you to understand it in depth. So from the Annenberg Assignment 1, we all know thoroughly, right? The atmosphere is consisted mainly of nitrogen, which is not very active. About 80% and 20% is oxygen. About 1% is other gases such as argon, carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, etc., etc. So the other gases here, including carbon dioxide, although it's only 1%, it plays a very important role in regulating the temperature of the atmosphere. There are 4 layers in atmosphere: troposphere, sitting at the bottom; stratosphere, where we fly the airplanes; and the mesosphere and the thermosphere. I definitely want you to understand troposphere, where the weather happens, and the stratosphere, which has the ozone layers protecting us from the UV radiation. And it is pretty peaceful at the bottom of this layer, so that is where we fly the airplanes. The first layer is troposphere. It's about 10 kilometers high. This is where air actively flows up and down and the weather forms. The second layer is stratosphere. It's about 10 to 50 kilometers. This is where the ozone layer is. You can see from the slide, it's sitting at the bottom of the stratosphere. This layer is very important. It absorbs UV and shielding us from the UV radiation. When this layer is depleted, we have the holes, right? The big holes of ozone layer. The skin cancer rate dramatically increased. And also, the thing I want to emphasize about this layer is it's pretty peaceful here. There's no dramatic airflows like in troposphere. So this is where we fly the airplanes. I'm not going to test the mesosphere, but it will be interesting to know it's this layer of 50 to 80 kilometers. And if you look at this graph, you can see it has very cold temperature. It's because the air here in this layer is very thin to really absorb any energy from the sun. Sometimes the temperature can drop as low as about 100 minus 120 degrees Celsius. It's like way below freezing point. It's even below the point of the frozen nitrogen. So it's cold. And the thermosphere, if we check out this slide here, thermosphere is the temperature increased a lot. And here you can see the space aircraft sit in this layer, and you see those bright colors. It's because the UV causes ionization of the molecules, and also because of this high temperature. It could be above 1500 degrees Celsius. So it is a very, very hot layer. The last thing I want to mention about the atmosphere is wind and weather. Its wind and weather are mainly driven by this very simple movement of air. Here I need to emphasize how the air flows. Okay, the air gets heated. At first it sits at the bottom, okay, and it's condensed. When it's heated, it expands, the volume increase, and they rise, and when it's getting cold again, it will drop off to the surface. So it is a very simple motion, but this is the simple motion driving the wind and the weather. And how the wind forms, this is the global wind patterns because the Earth is constantly spinning. So the speed at the equator is the most. So the air kind of drag like this way. And also in the local areas, it's kind of circulate, right? The cold air drop, and the hot layer, the hot air rise up. So this is constant motion in the local area. But in the global area, because of the sinking, the rising motion, and the spinning of the Earth, so the red arrows shows the global pattern of the winds. So this is how the winds form. So that wraps up the introduction of the atmosphere. Now we move into the pollution of the atmosphere. So the pollution is any addition of matter or energy added into the environment, which is not healthy, which degrades the environment for humans and other organisms. And because human actions are the major cause of the pollution, we adding those unnecessary matter or energy sometimes could be detrimental. We can definitely do something to prevent it. So the first type of the pollution comes from burning of the fossil fuel. So I list a few here, like sulfides, nitrates, volatile organic compounds, and particulate matters. So those are the chemicals and the particles released from burning of fossil fuel. And the second type I want to discuss is the smog. Smog is a word combined smoking and fog. So you can see the bad air quality in these two pictures. And they greatly reduce the visibility of the air, and there's a lot of very active, harmful chemicals floating around in the atmosphere. That is very bad to the human health. The third type of pollution is, I want you to pay attention, is acid rain. Okay, when the rain is very acidic, it kills everything. It kills the forest, it kills the fish, aqua life. It also damage the buildings, the historical sites as seen on the right side of the slide. The last thing I want to mention is the depletion of ozone. That's the fourth type of pollution I want to discuss about the air pollutions. I want you to check out this short video on YouTube, and those scientists did a fantastic job explaining how ozone was generated and the ozone layer in the stratosphere. What is their function? And if you see the color here, this is abundant ozone site, and after 15 years, all those sites disappear.